Views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Hey, everybody, I want to just tell you, thank you. That is the last time you will hear the Dr. Pat Show intro for the show that Dr. Darvish and I do together. Moving forward, 2 weeks from now, what you're going to hear is a new show that she and I have been talking about doing for years. What it's going to be is all about health and wellness and thriving in life. And she and I are working on what that show is going to be called and what we're going to be bringing to you. Because in the world we live in today, what I've discovered, and certainly what she does 24/7 in the people that come to see her, in the world that she lives in, is we are discovering more innovative, more out of the box ways to live. And as a matter of fact, believe it or not, I will say, I don't know what Dr. Darvish will say, I would like to say we're starting to lessen the gap between East and West. Dr. Nooshin Darvish is not just somebody that shows up every day to help people live a vibrant, amazing life. She is the medical director and founder of Holistique. You're going to hear about that. She is also someone that has went beyond the beyond to be not just well-educated, but passionate about integrative cancer therapies, about the word mammography, which many people weren't even doing, about looking at energy medicine, integrating Eastern and Western, naturopathic, bioenergy medicine. And today, one of the things that we are talking about are hormones, specifically testosterone. And why is that important? Well, you're going to hear from her today, you're going to hear from me today, and you're going to hear what it is you don't know about testosterone. Dr. Darvish, great to have you.
Dr. Pat, this is going to be an absolutely amazing show. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you. I am so excited to launch this off in the next couple of weeks and talk about how vibrant you can all become even if you don't feel good right now. So this is all about transforming lives from within, truly from within.
Yeah,
so we're going to talk about this testosterone thing. Earlier you told me you got too much of it, Dr. Pat.
I'm telling you, that's what people say to me. They say like, Pat, look, I don't know what your blood work says, but generally speaking, we think you got a little bit too much testosterone. I think they're talking metaphorically. But when it comes down to the health and when it comes down to what's inside, there are ways to measure what we're talking about.
There are. And, testosterone, the thing I want to get across really is that testosterone is one element in the big picture of things.
Yeah.
And it is really needed to be in balance with everything else within our system and within the world around us. So, I see patients that have gone to anti-aging doctors. I was actually trained and I'm board certified in anti-aging medicine myself. But I see many coming in with high levels of testosterone being prescribed. And these guys and women are like, and they're just like, oomph. And, it's just too much going on. And it really is not healthy for them or the society or their families around them, right? And so it all really needs to be about balance. And, testosterone is really vital for our survival. We need
both men and women.
For both men and women. Exactly. We both have the testosterone, we have the estrogens, we have the progesterone, the DHEA. We've got both men and women have both of these sets of hormones. It's just a matter of balance. I know you don't like that term, but I do.
No, I like it for this. No, I definitely like it for this, because the reason that we're talking about balance is that there is and you're going to talk about what testosterone is and how it affects the body. But the reason it's important to talk about it is that sometimes we think when we're talking about hormones, we think that we have to apply high dosages because we don't understand the natural body's way of absorption and adjustment. And so the body is a natural balancer, right?
Exactly. If you think about it, we were born perfect. Honestly, all beings were created from perfect and complete from the very beginning. And the most one can say is that these perfections only become more apparent gradually, right? And so we've been in perfect balance. Newborn babies, you can see how pure they are, how beautiful they are. And then as we get involved in the world around us, these stressors and relationships and food and environment and the toxins throw things out of balance and create a lot of stress within us. And it's that stress that starts depleting some of these hormones, including testosterone. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to kind of go back to reestablishing the balance that we had when we were younger in order to function properly, in order to reduce our risks for cancers. People think that, you get hormone therapies and these hormones are going to cause cancers and all sorts of things. They will if you're using synthetic hormones.
Right. Well, also, well, the other thing is, too, I just did a show on this yesterday or the day before on human growth hormone. And there is now research out, scientific research. I read from a brand new medical article about it. And basically what they're saying is all of these side effects from hormones, and in this case, it was HGH, come from the fact that people injected themselves, number one. Number two, synthetic. And number three, never monitored anything. Exactly. Never figured out, where am I? We're not talking about that today, though. That's not what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is that things have to be in balance. And I want people to remember that if I give you testosterone, I'm basically shutting down your body's own ability to make testosterone. So I better not give it to you in a form or a dosage level that shuts yours down. Because if you are, a 35-year-old or 40-year-old or 45-year-old who has low testosterone, we want to optimize that. We want to get your body to make it. And if we get to a point where your body's no longer making this, then that's when we start introducing testosterone, or we give it in little short spurts so that your body says, oh, okay, I've got to be at this level, so let me bring this level up and start making it on its own. So this is our goal, is to really stimulate the body to make its testosterone versus just shutting it down with extra testosterone.
Well, and let's talk about this for a minute, about what causes low testosterone. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think this is also busting through the myth about this. And what I mean by that is, when you hit the age of like 70 or 60 or whatever it is, people look at that, but it doesn't start then. It's a different process. It happens over time. But also, you're going to talk about some other things that might increase the rate by which testosterone decreases.
Exactly. So, there is such a thing called andropause. Just like menopause in women, andropause occurs in men, and it's the cessation or the reduction of testosterone production. And it's a gradual process, and it's different for every man and woman. And so, typically around age 30, 35 is when we start seeing these testosterone levels start declining. And by age 75, there is only about 50% of the actual what's called bioavailable testosterone that's present in a 75-year-old than a 20-year-old. So one thing that I really want to point out is that this low testosterone is really important in treating, especially in men, because the studies have shown that 88% of men with low testosterone, die earlier than they should. 88%.
That's enormous, right?
That's enormous. It's not 5%. It's not 10%. It's 88%. So it is really important to look at why do we have low testosterone. And you know what? I have to mention this is that I'm seeing 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds with low testosterone. These are boys that should have raging high hormones, and their hormones are in the dumps. And so what's happening is that these kids are ending up on antidepressants and feeling anxiety and depression. And it's not because of anything else other than the fact that they're low testosterone. They've got low testosterone. They're not deficient in Prozac. They're not deficient in any kind of an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. They're deficient in their testosterone production. And so you mentioned what causes these levels to go down. And number one is really stress. And if you see our young kids, our 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, they're on a lot of stress, not only mental stress, but the physical stress around them, the food that they're eating, the toxins that they're being exposed to, the pesticides in the air, the lack of sleep. They're on their phones texting away and on computers all day till late, and they're drinking their soda pops and their sodas and their sugary drinks and all sorts of goodies, breads that are full of sugar and corn syrup and all sorts of things. And it's these things that are causing these boys to have low T, not to mention the 35, the 40, the 45-year-olds. And then there's a sedentary lifestyle. Again, they're sitting there in front of the computer playing computer games, or my men that coming from Amazon or Microsoft, they're sitting there 15 hours a day in front of the computers. And if they're not doing the computer thing, they're traveling long distance overseas or across the country constantly, once or twice a month, 3 times a month, 4 times a month, and maybe even more. And it's the stress that's causing the hormones to degrade.
Yeah.
The testosterone, the DHEA, and all these other hormones.
Yeah. One of the things, the studies that are coming out now, Dr. Darvish, really talk to what you're addressing. First of all, one of the things that the studies are talking about, they're really studying, like, where is the population showing abnormality here? And one of the things they're looking at areas, and once upon a time, we didn't look at this in this way. And they're looking at areas where perhaps people are growing up, they're impoverished. They can't, get the kind of food and substance. Maybe the environment is not so clean. And once upon a time, we never looked at that. Now that we're looking at how to have a vibrant level of health, it's important to understand these external factors, as well as some genetics, isn't it?
Exactly. So, the genetics play a role, but they're only about 10, 15% of a role that they play in the way we manifest symptoms and disease processes and hormones and all sorts of things. The biggest thing is that switch, the epigenetic switch, that is in our control by the way we eat, by the way we exercise, by the way we handle stress, by the way we are in our relationships and who we are, by our spiritual connections. It's these other things that are so much more important in turning that switch on towards disease or switching it off towards wellness and vitality, right?
Yeah.
So, this low T thing is so superbly important. Yet men think, doctors think that, you just focus on the T. I've got to get my testosterone checked and give the testosterone and away I go. What they forget is the building blocks that makes testosterone.
Right.
The way that testosterone is processed. And what I mean by that, going back to this idea of balance between the right and the left, between the female and the male within each one of us, right? The estrogen and the testosterone. Men have testosterone and estrogen in their bodies, just like women have testosterone and estrogen. The difference is that men have a higher amount than estrogen. They have a higher amount of testosterone, and women have higher amounts of estrogen compared to testosterone. But what happens is that you give a high amount of testosterone without addressing anything else, it can funnel down and constantly make more of the estrogen. So before you know it, you've got more estrogen, and the ratio between the two is off. It's not that your testosterone is too high or too low, it's that your estrogen is now high. And so you start gaining weight, you start having memory issues, fatigue, blood pressure issues, blood sugar issues, muscle aches, joint pain, even bones start getting weaker as these levels shift. So it's really important to address not only the testosterone, but the way the body's processing the testosterone, as well as the building blocks like pregnenolone and DHEA, which are major hormones that are made from cholesterol. By the way, you know, all these men and women, but majority men, because they tend to have high cholesterol earlier, they're put on cholesterol medication, which shuts down your cholesterol medication, your cholesterol levels. That cholesterol is a building block for your hormones. And so you're shutting down the cholesterol, and as a result, you're getting less testosterone, less DHEA, less progesterone, all of these other major hormones that are so vital in protecting your heart and your brain and your blood sugar and reducing your risks for stroke and heart disease and cancer, right? So we're using all of these medications to suppress cholesterol. In the meantime, we're losing out on the benefits of the hormones as a result.
Yeah. Right? And we're talking about something that could turn out to be systemic in the body. And what I mean by that is, you know, we say testosterone and then we think about body mass or bone strength or strength. But there is a systemic issue that happens in the body when our hormones are not in balance. And what I mean by that, maybe you can address this, Dr. Darvish, is, well, I think we can talk about some of the symptoms for people like depression, like moods, right? These things that once they start to affect the body systemically have other impacts on other aspects of the body. And so can we talk a little bit about that? Because the headlines are all about the idea of balancing testosterone to build strength. But we're talking about fatigue, depression, lack of self-confidence, memory loss, right? We're not saying that, you know, low libido doesn't count, but that's men and women. How are these other things now? How do they infect the systems in the body? Meaning, what is the effect on sugar levels? What is the effect on inflammation? What is the effect on brain functioning beyond memory? Can you talk to that a little bit?
You know, testosterone is a vital hormone. That's why we're calling this a game changer. Right? It's a vital hormone. It's anti-inflammatory. It reduces inflammation in our body. It's a mood stabilizer. It reduces anxiety, depression with ourselves. The biggest thing I always see is that men and women, as they get older and their testosterone levels drop, I know it when they come in and they're not having confidence. They're not in the right mind. They're having trouble making decisions, going back and forth. And they're just, their mood is low, their affect is low, and they're not vital like they used to be. That's when I know that testosterone is going down. And then I start asking them, are you having low libido? Are you having morning erections that are decreased? Are you having brain fog? Are you having trouble concentrating on your work? Are you having trouble building muscle when you're exercising? These are all symptoms that come along with low T, but they also come along when low T is out of balance with estrogen. So again, you know, this whole thing about men and women not being equal, but being in balance.
Yeah.
Being complementary, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The estrogen and the testosterone being in complementary in the body. So within the body, we have got the two wings. One is the man and one is the woman. One is the testosterone, one is the estrogen. And unless both of them are in balance and they're working together, this bird will not fly. And so it's really important to, again, going back to these hormones and looking at the effect it has on the general well-being and the effect it has on the family around you. You know, because the grumpy old man or the irritable woman, you know, are both out of hormones.
Yeah, or the teenager that everybody wants to look at a teenager and say, "Oh, that's testosterone." It may not be that, but
exactly.
You know, Dr. Darvish, one of the things that we're going to talk about here today, and this is why it's also a game changer. Up until recently, and I'm going to point to a study in December of 17. Up until recently, nobody wanted to touch the conversation on testosterone, except for you pretty much, and maybe some of your colleagues. And the reason they didn't is because there were a couple of studies done where the studies were done, and out of the study, they said, increased cardiovascular. But I'll tell you what happened in December. They came out and they did another study, and they said low testosterone is associated with elevated cardiovascular disease biomarkers, not high testosterone. And what they came out in the scientific study and said that, wait a minute, the fear of this increase of risk of heart attack and stroke with testosterone therapy was mainly caused by two high profile but flawed studies. So when that study came out and said, oh, wait a minute, all of this medical stuff on testosterone has been promoted and talked about based on two studies that were flawed. And so they went out and they presented this data. And that was a game changer in the medical world, right?
Yes.
Now take that coupled with the bio world and the natural world and what you've been doing. This really is where, like I said before, East and West now are at least starting to come together.
Exactly.
On the fact that we didn't get this right.
Exactly. You know, and many of those studies, majority of those studies have been done on synthetic testosterone and not bioidentical testosterone. And there is a huge difference just in general between synthetic hormones and bioidentical hormones. Synthetic hormones are obviously made in the laboratory. And what has been done is typically taking the testosterone molecule and shifting it a little bit in order to make it patentable. And so now it's become a synthetic drug that is not quite a match. In some levels, it is a match, and in many levels, it's not a match to the body. And as a result, there is an increased risk of cancers, prostate cancers, and heart stuff, and all sorts of things going on because it's synthetic. Now you shift over to the bioidentical, which is basically identical to your own body. And the identical ones, the bioidentical ones, cannot be mass produced because they go bad. They're not patentable, right? Although there's still a controlled substance. And that's the one thing we need to realize is that testosterone is a controlled substance. And so when we prescribe it, patients can't just pop in and call in and say, can I have a refill? They need to be seen and documented. But besides the point, that's legality stuff.
But it's also good health care.
Yes, it is. It is.
I talked about this the other day, and I said, look, whatever you're going to do, any kind of hormone thing you're looking at, go get the blood work done.
For sure.
Don't just be like self-medicating.
No, well, you can't do that with testosterone because you can get into trouble.
That's right.
But so the bioidentical hormones are more protective. You know, if you think about a 16-year-old who does have raging testosterone levels, they have the lowest risk of prostate cancer. They have the lowest risk of diabetes and all sorts of things because their testosterone levels are in a normal range. And they're something that your body receptors, your cellular receptors can use. By the way, testosterone receptors is everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, we're bombarded with this male stuff.
Everywhere, for sure.
The brain and the heart, everywhere, right?
I know. Look, before we, we've got so much to talk about here, how to treat it, what to do about it. One of the things I want to do is, first of all, for those of you just tuning in, Dr. Nooshin Darvish, how can people find out more about you? How can they find out what you're doing at Holistique to work with people on this? So let's take a minute and give out some information. Then we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and give everybody the lowdown on how to treat this safely and effectively. So how can people find out more about you?
Well, you can go to my website, drdarvish.com. That's drdarvish.com. Or you can go to our clinic website, which is holistiquehealth.com. Holistique is the French spelling, since I'm Canadian. HOLISTIQUE health.com. And our office number is 425-451-0404. And we welcome any comments or any information that you need. I'm willing to have any consults with you online or in person. We do a lot of telehealth medicine nowadays. And if you're country and you have trouble coming in, then we can have those discussions over video chats or phone and get some things going to help you become more vital.
Oh, I love it. When we come back, Dr. Darvish is going to take us on a journey about where do you begin? How do you begin to treat this? What is it that you look for when someone comes in and has all of the symptoms? They're telling you about what's going on. Where do you begin the treatment? We're going to talk about how do you measure? How do you figure out where somebody is? Then we're going to talk about what we can do about it. Because here's the thing. This is not a one-size-fits-all conversation. When we're talking about hormones and balance, we are not talking about pulling that same thing off the shelf that everybody in the world is pulling off there, or getting something that may not be working for you. When we come back, Dr. Darvish is going to take us on the what, the how, the when. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Gifted intuitive healer and spiritual teacher Sarah Luce brings her unique style to the hit show Small Steps, Big Breakthrough Radio on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Tune in each month as Sarah turns reality on end and shows us how to experience expansive results with simple yet powerful steps. Expect an enlightening bend on what you currently believe is possible. For show details and upcoming topics, visit sarahluce.com. That's SARALOOS.com.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit TheTruthIsFunny.com.
Are you done being afraid to jump into the life that's waiting for you? Are you ready for a real shift? I invite you to tune in every Tuesday with me, Tracy L., on the Tracy L. Clark Show, where we will teach you how to live your extraordinary life. At 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio, where I will provide the tools and the steps needed to help you transcend perceived limitations and move forward with an extraordinary life. For more information, visit me at tracylclark.com.
If you're dealing with fear and anxiety, you've probably noticed that the more you fight these emotions, the stronger they seem to get. Dr. Friedemann Schaub, the author of The Fear and Anxiety Solution, explains that instead of suppressing, we need to identify and resolve the deeper subconscious root causes of fear and anxiety. His personal breakthrough program has helped thousands worldwide to overcome their emotional challenges. To learn more, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com and schedule your free consultation with Dr. Schaub now.
Choose the New Earth on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio as Cornelia takes listeners on an odyssey of higher consciousness to inspire, educate, and empower. Cornelia guides people on the path of self-healing, peace, and liberation. The Cornelia Stephanie Show is your catalyst for anchoring heaven on earth on a global scale. For more information, go to corneliastephanie.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so excited. The next time you hear Dr. Darvish and I do a show, you're going to hear a groundbreaking, out-of-the-box show on health and wellness, a show that she and I have talked about doing and have done actually in the past. For example, when she and I were on a passionate mission to introduce the world to what was then the little known disease called Lyme disease, now called chronic Lyme disease, now called something I don't even know. But back in the day when we did this, like 2005, we did a complete show about Lyme Talk and Lyme Talk Radio. And so the world now is ready for us to be talking about the innovations, the changes. You know, what is it about energy medicine? What are the little known things that can change your life? As a matter of fact, today's show is about a game changer, and it's a game changer for both men and women. You know, what is it that you would want to know about testosterone that could change your life? Today, Dr. Darvish so far has talked about what it is, why we need it, what the symptoms are. Now that you have that information, go to drdarvish.com to find out more about her. But the other thing is, great, Dr. Darvish, now that I have this, so what? What am I going to do?
Well, first of all, you got to get tested. You have to get tested. Okay, so I use multiple different types of tests in order to get a full picture of where the dysfunction is, where the weaknesses are, and correct those. So the idea is that, you know, we don't want to keep suppressing the symptoms. So if you've got low T, that could be the problem. Or there could be something else that's the underlying problem that's making you have low T. And if you just correct the low T and you don't correct this underlying problem, then what's going to happen is that this underlying problem is going to find another outlet that may be even a bigger deal that may cause even more problems for you. So we've got to look at the whole picture. So we use blood tests, we use urine tests, we use saliva tests, or at least a combination of two of those tests to get a better picture of what's going on with you. We sometimes use thermometry, which is a heat temperature testing. And we're looking for hormones like pregnenolone, DHEA, the different types of estrogens. There's 3 different types that we can talk about at another time. Progesterone, which is also extremely important for men, especially when it comes to their sense of well-being, and sleep. And those things are also part of this andropause, this decline in the testosterone production that happens in men, and in women it goes up. So then there is, we have to look at PSA, your prostate numbers, because prostate can get enlarged. And you know, people tend to blame it on the testosterone thing, but it's actually not due to the testosterone thing. It's due to a whole bunch of things, and we can discuss that at another level. But one thing I do want my men out there to listen to hear is that I often see benign prostate enlargement. So when the prostate gets too large, being caused not only by hormonal imbalances and dietary and food and all of that, but really the key in it is the emotional trauma or drama that these men are facing, that they're kind of suppressing and they're bottling up, especially in their relationships. And guess what? The vessel, the sink that's holding all of this is that prostate. So we tend to look at the emotional level of what's going on with men and women when it comes to hormonal imbalances. Looking at your blood, especially your red blood cells. Red blood cells can get really thick if you're on testosterone therapy, especially if you're on the wrong type of testosterone therapy or too much of it. It can thicken the blood, and that thickness causes over time clotting and all sorts of different things with the heart and the brain and inflammation. Liver, we look at genetics, we look at nutrients. So one of the key numbers or vitamins that we want to look at is zinc. Yeah. Zinc is a major factor in the transfer of testosterone into some of its byproducts, like DHT, which is what causes hair loss in men. And it can cause more obesity. And so, and blood sugar changes. So zinc is a really important level to look at. And it's a very sensitive marker in the blood. So we have to do it properly. Vitamin B6. I have to pull out my vitamin B6.
Yeah. Let's talk about
my vitamin B6.
Yeah.
So there's two forms of it. There's a P5P, which is the active form, and then there is the vitamin B6. And these vitamins are really important, again, in the way the body handles stress, the way the body detoxifies these chemicals and the hormones, the way it helps with memory and energy. Because, when you're going through andropause, you're going to feel tired. You're going to feel sluggish. And it's this vicious circle where you're feeling sluggish, you don't want to exercise, you don't want to do anything, your sleep is not good, everything just goes down the hill. And we've got to break that cycle. And so this is what we're looking at, all of this. We're also looking at the heavy metal burden in your system. Now, people say, I don't have heavy metal toxicity. Well, the vaccinations you were given, the dental amalgams, the silver fillings in your mouth. If your mother was toxic with heavy metals, if you're using aluminum pots and pans and nonstick stuff to cook with, and aluminum foils and, everything we have processed is almost packed in these aluminum foils. We are being toxified, basically, with heavy metals that tend to aggregate. They tend to be attracted to these glands, like your testes, like your adrenals, like your pancreas, your thyroid, your pituitary gland. These are all glands that have to work in harmony. They have to work in harmony and balance in order for us to be functional and vital and optimal human beings. The gut. We'll probably spend one of these sessions talking about the whole gut microbiome. It's the big hottest topic out there, the microbiome. The bacteria in our gut play a huge role in hormonal balance, in your testosterone, estrogen balance, progesterone, in all of that. And viruses. We talked a little bit about emotional stress and the travel stress and work stress playing a big role. So we've got to look at that. Alcohol consumption. Your alcohol intake directly impacts your testosterone production. The more alcohol, the less testosterone you're going to have. The more junk food you eat, the less testosterone you're going to have. And you know what? The less sun you get, the less testosterone you're going to get. So you've got to get your sun exposure up, vitamin D. And I'm talking about sun exposure in the tropicals, right closer to the equator.
Yeah.
Hawaii and Mexico and Florida and California and Arizona, those areas of the country that are below 35 degrees latitude tend to get more sunshine at a proper degree, at a proper angle that helps convert our body vitamin D. Up here in the Northwest, it's a great sunny day, beautiful sunny day. The rays of the sun don't change the vitamin D production in our body. They don't allow for vitamin D to be produced properly. So we really need to look at sunshine as well as vitamin D levels. So these are the few things that we look at in order to look at the whole hormonal balance and testosterone levels, and why you're low in testosterone, and what can we do to shift that so that you feel not only fabulous, not only strong, not only mentally present in your work and in your relationships, spiritually present, but you're feeling grounded. And, that's the one thing that I love about testosterone is that it makes people feel grounded and confident.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what we're talking about really is the show is really talking about game changer. And the game changing aspect of this is that when we look at the whole picture, and there are also many ways to go about it, everything from IV nutrition therapy for the building blocks to get the system to be back to this perfection that you mentioned at the top of the show, because this is a perfect system. Our bodies are masterful, right, in what they can do, but not when out of balance. It's like anything, right? If the air in your tire of your car is low, your car is not going to work.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And, we are so stuck in the way we have been raised. And oftentimes we forget that we have the capacity to shift, to change, and to transform. We don't need to be leading the same kind of a life. We don't need to be stuck in the feeling like my blood sugar is out and I'm feeling fat and I'm feeling sluggish and I'm feeling like hopeless. We don't need to continue feeling that way. We have the capacity to shift, but oftentimes we need somebody else to help us look at that and point to us what our blind spot is, right? I use that a lot. I love this common sense that we all have a blind spot. Somebody's got to show it to us and we can shift. We can shift. All we need to do is to become aware. And this is one of the reasons I love to meditate. And I encourage my patients and people, both men and women, to meditate, young and old, because meditation creates a space where we can access the mysteries of the world. We can get information that is not present in the tangible life that we lead. We can access beyond this, and messages, informations, knowledge comes to us. Why do we think that these 15-year-olds are smarter than the 30-year-olds, right? It's the subliminal, this message that comes to them from a very different space than just the tangible things.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about too is, and this is really what's fascinating about the conversation today, and as we move forward and continue to do this, we're now getting more information about how to excel in today's world. And this idea about, young people. By the way, Dr. Darvish, I don't know if you know this, but there was a study done of the Generation Zers. And the study that was done is a recent study they did to try to get a sense of we're hiring people, we're hiring this generation. They must want something different. Well, here's what the study showed. The study showed that this particular generation is coming to the workplace, and rather than money at the top of the list or, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Empathy and respect. This is now what you're saying. See, everybody's looking at these generations and they have this idea of who they are and they're this and they're that. But this study done by Sadesco talked about, wait a minute, this is a generation of highly sensitive beings. And I think that's what we're talking with. And I think all of us can really stand to be more intuitive, more in tune, more spiritual with what's going on in the world. But we got to start from ourselves.
Exactly. And that awareness is so, so important. Learning to be aware of who you are, what your body's doing, what you're doing on a daily basis. Being really present with yourself is going to be extremely important in your wellness, and learning about what you need to do in order to help yourself transform. So I want to talk a little bit about how we treat this low T, right? This low testosterone. Obviously, the first thing comes to most people's mind is testosterone replacement therapy. Short is TRT. So TRT is, we talked very briefly about it being synthetic or bioidentical. We tend to use bioidentical because it does reduce your risk for cancers and heart disease. Instead, it actually protects your heart. It actually protects your body against cancers. It protects your mind. They're now showing that there's testosterone receptors in the brain. And so men, when they have low T, they have a higher risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. And so when we correct the testosterone, the memory and the brain function comes back. The risk for cancers go down. There's this whole debate about prostate cancer being caused by testosterone. The risk goes up with synthetic testosterone, but there has been no evidence that bioidentical testosterone increases prostate cancer. And by the way, again, we're looking at too high levels or too low levels. If you're too high, it can cause inflammation in your system. It can cause heart disease in your system and cancers. If you're too low, it does the same thing. But again, if you're in harmony and balance with what's going on with the rest of your hormones, then you're reducing your heart disease, your risks, you're increasing your lifespan and vitality, you're improving your mind, you're decreasing your risk for cancers, your sexual function, libido, memory. I mean, all of these joints, everything gets optimum. So it's really, again, looking and bringing it back to balance. So we use, in some cases where patients, men or women, are extremely deficient in testosterone, where they're not producing it at all, I start using pellets or creams, which are topical. I never use oral, because oral testosterone can actually get processed by the liver and become a very toxic molecule that can cause damage in your system. I don't use injections very often, and because, again, the injections are often synthetic, and instead of keeping your levels level, you're spiking up. Every time you give yourself an injection of testosterone, it spikes up, and then it drops, and you spike up and drops. And that's not the way human beings were made. We're not spikers, right?
No, that's right.
And
that's
so
right.
I prefer to do creams or topical bioidentical testosterone, where you're applying it regularly, and that keeps maintain your levels stable. Now, some men don't absorb the creams very well, or they don't like it. And so then we go to pellets, and pellets are a lot of fun. And they're really beneficial. I love pellets more than any of the other forms of testosterone therapy, because for a few reasons. One, they are these little pellets of rice, the size of a grain of rice.
Yeah.
And we insert them just under the skin, a little surgical procedure. It's not a big deal. We don't even need to suture it. And these pellets stay in the system. So they start gradually going up, and they stay in the system for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. And then they start dropping down. And initially, most men who are very deficient may need, and depending on their stress level, may need pellets more frequently, like every 3, 4 months. But as their levels improve, as the cells and tissues get saturated, they need it less often. So I have, men coming in once every 6 to 8 months getting these pellets in, and they don't have to worry about their testosterone levels or the DHEA or pregnenolone, because I put some of those in with it if they're low. DHEA is a really important hormone. I call it the anti-aging hormone.
Yeah.
It is the hormone that's the building block for our body to make testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. It's your anti-stress hormone. When your cortisol shoots up and you're all wired up and ready to go, DHEA is the one that helps bring that back down to balance. Says, hey, chill. Right? Chill. And so DHEA needs to be measured and evaluated along with the other hormones. My young men who have low testosterone and who do not want to, or who want to have babies, I should say, who do want to have babies, we don't want to give them testosterone. Because remember, when you give them testosterone, it shuts down your body's own production. It also shuts down sperm production or sperm motility, or decreases its viability. And so we don't want to necessarily give testosterone to younger men who have low T. Instead, we want to optimize it again. And there are different hormones that do that. There is human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, the HCG hormone, which is the pregnancy hormone. But in men, it acts as a stimulation to the testes to make testosterone.
Yeah, but can you, Dr. Darvish, one of the things I want to say, and I want to point out about this, is what you just said is counterintuitive to most men. See, they don't get that part that you just said. So that is a game changer piece of information for young men who think, oh, I got to get more testosterone here. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what you just said, I want men and women who are listening to this, and you got your husbands over there, and you're trying to create a family, please call Dr. Darvish this one, because you're going in the wrong direction.
Yes, exactly. And, like I said at the very beginning, I prefer to get the body to make testosterone. So there is the nutrients we talked about, the zinc, the vitamin D, the B6, the B5. There's multiple nutrients that we want to look at and use those. There's herbs. My favorite herb for this low T is ashwagandha. There's hundreds of studies on ashwagandha, which is East Indian herb. It's what we call an adaptogenic. It brings back hormones back to balance. Yes. And so, but the studies have shown that for men taking 3 capsules, which is about 1,500 milligrams at night, significantly increases their testosterone levels. For women, I do a different dosage. Usually they do it throughout the day instead of all one big chunk at nighttime. And the reason we want them to do it at nighttime is because, like you mentioned briefly, the human growth hormone is high in the evenings when you actually sleep.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha helps men and women sleep, but especially men, it helps them sleep. It gets the human growth hormone up higher so that your body can heal and repair itself at nighttime. Therefore, you wake up much fresher. For men, their morning erections are better. Their brain is more clear. Their energy is more vital. There's a couple of other herbs that we use. Fenugreek. I love fenugreek. Don't like the smell, but I love it. I love it in Persian cooking. So those of you who are familiar with Persian cooking or misabzi know about fenugreek.
Oh, it's cool.
Because it is great for testosterone and improving libido and energy, especially in men. And their sense of well-being.
Yeah. Now, what we're talking about, though, Dr. Darvish, too, is you're going over so much detail. And really, for me, I want to make sure that folks know, call Dr. Darvish, because you have this exquisite way to help people to get the body to work in an optimal fashion. And that's really the game changer for today, isn't it? I mean, and part of this is all encapsulated into a message that has to do with virtues of wholeness.
Exactly. And it's not just wholeness, it's personalized.
Yeah.
Each one of us is a different individual in a sense. We may have the estrogens, the testosterones, the hormones, the brain, the body, the heart, the kidneys, whatever. But each one of us has individual life experience in this world. And as a result, our bodies are constantly trying to adapt to that life experience, trying to use the nutrition that we're getting, the genetics that we were born with, and trying to use all of this together in order to help us function and adapt to the world around us optimally, right? Yeah. And so we can't treat everyone the same. We can't treat every man and every woman with, oh, you've got low T, I'm going to give you testosterone at 100 milligrams twice a week, 3 times a week, or whatever. We cannot do that because you're going to get into trouble if you do that somewhere else, right? So we really have to use personalized and precise medicine in order to make people feel and look and be their best physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
I know. Wow, this time has gone by so quickly. And thank you. What a great show. Much more to come. Dr. Darvish, this is a time for us to all to reflect. I want to ask you, what is the personal message? What would you like to leave us with here today?
Now, I really like to share this quote that's by a 19th century British medical doctor, Dr. Esselment, in his book, Baha'u'llah and the New Era. He says, "The world in the past has been ruled by force, and man has dominated over woman by reason of his more forceful and aggressive qualities, both of body and mind. But the balance is already shifting. Force is losing its dominance, and mental alertness, intuition, and the spiritual qualities of love and service in which woman is strong are gaining ascendancy. Hence, the new age will be an age less masculine and more permeated with feminine ideals. Or to speak more exactly, will be an age in which the masculine and the feminine elements of civilization will be more evenly balanced." And that's our goal for today.
Dr. Nooshin Darvish, everyone, please go to drdarvish.com. I am Dr. Pat, and we are getting ready to launch a fabulous new show for all of you. Thank you, Dr. Darvish, so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pat.
I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning us in and turning us on. Carter, thank you for pushing all the right buttons. And remember, from all of us here to all of you, this has been a fabulous 15 years. We're getting ready to celebrate the Dr. Pat Show in January and 10 years of Transformation Talk Radio with the launch of an entire channel on health and wellness. All right, everybody, have a great one. We'll see you next time.